how to destroy your fear of wholesaling real estate, how to conquer your fear of getting started, how to destroy your fear of cold calling, talking to sellers, all these things. In today's video, Zach Ginn right here.
Rick Zach right here.
And what we're going to do today is what we're going to do is really break down your fear of wholesaling real estate, your fear of getting started in this business, and exactly how to conquer, destroy, and become as successful as possible when it comes to wholesaling real estate and starting out in the wholesaling real estate process. So we're ready to go. So a little about us. If you don't know who we are, this is first live stream. My name is Zach Ginn.
I'm Rick Zach.
I've done over 1,000 real estate wholesaling deals the past 6 years.
I've done over 3,000 deals over the last 20 years.
And we have a lot of experience when it comes to wholesaling real estate and wholesaling houses. So one criteria of why we think we are suited for this and why we can help you overcome any of your fears you might have in wholesaling real estate is we have helped hundreds of thousands of people get started in wholesaling real estate, and tens and tens and tens of thousands of people getting their first wholesaling deal, their 100th wholesaling deal. And I have helped so many people go from starting out very scared to get in this business to actually getting the first deal and conquering everything and becoming very successful. So that's why we think we're ready to go. We're excited to help you out, learn wholesaling real estate. So let's get into it and let's break it all down. But before we break it down, do us one huge favor. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. So smash that like button, hit that subscribe button, comment below your questions, and we're going to break down everything you need to know about breaking your fear, conquering any fears you have in your life and in wholesaling real estate. And most importantly, everything you need to know about becoming a millionaire, making 100K in wholesaling real estate, and becoming as successful as possible. So let's get it going. Y'all know what time it is. It's wholesaling time. Woo!
Get the fuck out of bed, bitch. Go. Get up, and get the guy go. Time to wake up, bitch. Get up. Get up. Get up.
Snap! We're ready to go. We're excited. I'm going to start changing lives today. We're ready to go, right? So one thing I want to say is why we made this video today and why we're talking about this today is because there's a lot of people right now actually watching us that have a fear of getting into wholesaling. They have a fear of talking to sellers. They have a fear of actually taking that action. And everybody knows that action is going to lead to your results, you making money, changing your financial life, and changing everything for wholesaling real estate. So how can I not want to talk about this? And how can I not want to overcome people's fears today? And so many beginners watching. And I also want to make this video. If anybody goes out here and they tell me they're scared to start wholesaling in the DMs, I just send them this video so they can kind of break that mold of that fear they have. And I want just to say this before we get started. It is completely normal to have a fear of getting started into something as crazy, adventurous, and some might say risky as wholesaling real estate, right? It is completely normal. I don't think it's something that is an unnecessary fear. It's actually a very natural one.
Yeah, I've never met anybody that did wholesaling that did not have some sort of initial fear, anxiety, scared to death to do it, including myself, including you when you did it. And I'm here to tell you, I'm 20 years plus, and 90% of the stuff I was scared of never really came true. So for the most part, most of your fear is just stuff you've made up in your head, and it's never going to come to reality. And if you understand that by just taking action alone, you will overcome it. If you succumb to your fear, you'll never have a chance to be a wholesaler. And honestly, fear is going to be somewhat synonymous when you start to become uncomfortable. So when you decide to take this journey to be a wholesaler, or you're considering it, I commend you, understanding you're going to do what 95, probably 98% of the world is scared to death to do. So it's perfectly normal to acknowledge, to feel fear, and understanding you're not alone. I think it's got about a 99% of people have the same feelings you do. So I had it when I started out. He had it. We all had it. So the idea is, how do we navigate through it, and how do we actually use it to our advantage?
And really, it's a natural fear, and it's something that I can help a lot of people just get over, right? So let's talk about this. Let's really like break down these fears and how to overcome them and everything you really need to know about how to actually conquer them, right? And let's sort of break this down. I'm very excited to get started. So I think the first thing you have to ask yourself, if you're starting out, you might have a fear of wholesaling, right? This is a very important thought you have to have for yourself, but your fear of failure has to be greater than your fear of wholesaling real estate. One thing I can tell you is you need something that's going to drive you, right? So something that's going to push you past the brink of where most people usually quit, right? And you look at the greatest human beings of all time that have accomplished amazing things. And we're not telling you to be the next like crazy big general or king or president or anything like. We're not talking about that, right? We're not telling you to go out here and be this crazy icon that changes the world, right? We're talking about changing your financial freedom, right? We're talking about changing your life and everything around it. So you're going to have something that drives you. If you have nothing that drives you, somebody else in your market, your competition, is going to have something that's driving them. So for example, when I went against my competition in wholesaling real estate, they all had the why of, hey, I'm married, I have kids, and I got to take care of them and put food on the plate. And if I don't get a deal, they don't get fed, right? That drove them pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
Now, my drive on paper didn't seem like it was as like big as that one, but it's not about the why, but it's the way that you perceive the why. So for me, my drive was, I do not want to work for $8 an hour as a bag boy, scrubbing toilets, bagging groceries for the rest of my life. Now, on paper, that is not as motivating as maybe putting food on the table for your kids and family, right? But for me, it was life or death. It was, my life could be extremely over unless I go out here and become successful in wholesaling. That was everything to me. That was my goal. I was so sick of potentially working as a bag boy the rest of my life in a grocery store and making $50K, $60K a year, that I was willing to do anything necessary and grind it out and just never quit, never surrender to achieve that goal. And the problem is, a lot of my competition, they're comfortable making 80, 90, 100K a year in wholesaling, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so their drive was maybe just getting one deal a month, right? And that was what they had a big why, right? Taking care of the kids and stuff. But after a deal or two in a month, they were like not hungry for it, right? And the chip on my shoulder of never working for that job, it was so great for myself that I pushed limits on my own mind. And I said, I'm just going to eat, breathe, sleep wholesaling until I don't have to work a job anymore. And they got me 2 deals and eventually over 100K and then millions of dollars, right? It was not that the why was a better why than somebody else's, but the why to me meant so much more to myself to push myself than the why for somebody else to push themselves. I don't know if I explained that the right way, but me working a bag boy job pushed my mind to cold call 5 hours a day, 5 days a week, and taking care of the kids might not push somebody to do that, right? It might for some people, but it might not for others, right? Because once you start making the 100K, you kind of stop. That's still a driver for me, right? And it's not that, I don't have to work another day in my life, or, we have plenty of passive income and stuff coming in, but like, I can tell you, it still pushes me hard. And for a lot of people, that fear of failure, the fear of being where you're at right now, or staying at where you're at, has to be greater than the fear of talking to a seller, right?
Yeah, it's you go back 20 plus years ago when I did this. You were a lot younger when you made the decision. You had some better tools, but it took me 11 years to make that decision. And my driving point for wholesaling was, if you ever felt backed in a corner in a job you have, it's like the worst feeling. And I go, you know what? It can't get any worse than what this is. I hated my boss. I hated what I did. And I know a lot of you can relate to this on this live. I just said, you know what? It can't be any worse.
It can't.
And I just said, what do I got to lose? Because I already know where I'm at and I hate it. So why don't I go look for prosperity? I found wholesaling. The rest is history. I was beyond scared to death. Like, honestly, if I had this live stream before I did it, it would have helped me, because I really struggled my first 2 or 3 years just getting through. You know what? My biggest fear in wholesaling was I would run out of deals. And here I am, like 21 years later. It's like, there's as many as I want to go out and find. So, you got to find your purpose. If you feel like you're backed up in a wall and go, I can't take one more day of this, I can always go back and do a job like this.
You can.
I might as well give it a shot. And I went heads in. I was scared to death, Lo. And that's what I'm excited about talking about this today.
That was the thing, right? Like, I was very worried to go and see an appointment. I was very worried to talk to these sellers, but I was more worried about staying at a bad boy job the rest of my life. Like, that was so much more fearful to me. I was more scared of living that life. Like, you look at a lot of things, right? I didn't want to work 60, 70 hours a week. I didn't want to, right? And, looking at it now, right? Working 10 hours a week, right? It's what I did was worth it. But I had to go from working 40 hours a week to working probably 90 to 100 hours a week, living with my parents at 17, 18 years old, to eventually get to the point where I make enough money where I just work 10 hours a week, do whatever I want, and travel wherever I want, right? And I'm not saying that to brag or anything, but I'm just saying that, like, that fear, my fear is gone of wholesaling because I've done it so many times, right? I mean, after 1,000 deals, there's really nothing I haven't seen. And knowing that, I would not trade any of that fear I had ever, right? And you sort of look at it like, I talk to a lot of people out here, right? And they come up to me and they're like, Zach, I'm so scared to get into wholesaling real estate, right? And I remember specifically one guy, he had a wedding ring on, right? And I said, hey, you have a wedding ring. Are you married? He said, yeah, I love my wife. And I'm like, okay. Were you scared to go on that first date with your wife? He said, oh, I was beyond scared. It's like, well, would you, knowing the fear you had to go through, why did you go over that fear of going on that first date? Well, because that led to a relationship and a wife and kids and the greatest thing ever, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, so you think the fear is worth it to do that? Of course. It was scared. It's never pleasant. I never liked it, but going over that led to something amazing, right? And I'm like, well, if you and your wife go out and get pizza tomorrow, are you going to be scared to do that? No, it'd be fun. I'm like excited for it. Same thing about wholesaling. You got to date wholesaling, right? You got to go on that first date, get that first deal. Second date, third date. Who cares if you mess up? You keep going on it. You'll be excited to do the next adventure, right? Guys, not a lot of people know this, but I think a lot of people do. When I do a live cold calling on this channel and I do it in front of thousands of people and try to close sellers and give lowball offers, I'm excited. It's fun to me. It's sort of a game, right? Like, I know that maybe the seller's going to say no. Maybe they call me a poopy head. I don't care. I'm in the thrill of the chase, right? And you look at it like a lot of things. And I look at it as a video game. I look at it as a game, like, because wholesaling to me is a video game because I keep pushing. I keep pushing the amount of money I make every single year. And it's kind of like, what level can I get to, right? And it's just fun to me. But it's like a video game. It's like if somebody goes up to me, my friends, and like, hey, do you pick up basketball tonight? I'm getting excited to do it. I play pickup basketball enough, and I have a really good time doing it. Same thing with wholesaling. You might be nervous about it, but it works out.
Yeah, guys, I'm here to tell you that, like, if you feel scared, nervous, anxious, that's part of change, of being uncomfortable. And it should tell you, for the most of you guys recognize fear and stuff as like, okay, that's a hot plate, I'm going to burn myself, or it's freezing cold outside. And the problem is now you're looking at fear internally. From the only reason you're fearful is because it's just different and it's not known to you. And that's the challenge. You got to understand, I did this. I'm not going to say completely unknown, but nobody really navigated me through it. So I actually had to take action in spite of my fear and just walk through it. Because, like, I'll give you an analogy. I hate the dentist. I hate the dentist with a passion. I had a lot of childhood trauma with it. My teeth have always been a pain in my butt, but I let past experience dictate my future fear of the dentist. And I find, I had to get some dental work, and I finally just sat in the chair and I go, I'm just going to let go and let it happen. And I found the anxiety going to the dentist is actually worse than the appointment. So I just get through it, and I work through it. I do kind of like a meditation to work through it. So whatever you have to do to help your ritual get through it, but understanding by going through that fear is what's going to make you accomplished, successful, and feel like you actually did something. That fear is trying to stop you from doing change. And if you recognize it and go, I have to go through this fear to get what I want, it's just on the other side. Look at it as like an adventure, kind of like a treasure hunt, anything like that. I don't look at the dentist like a treasure hunt. I just want to get in and out and not get my complete wallet cleaned
You know
out.
what you are, right? You're an anti-dentite.
Dentist.
You're
I tell you, man,
anti-dentite.
I guarantee I am not the only one with like a dentist issue, man. I get the dentist. I'm just like, my favorite part is when they go, does that hurt? I go,
I brushed my
I don't
teeth twice
know.
today, so I don't fear it.
Yeah, just brush the ones you want to keep. That's what a good dentist told me a long time ago.
Honestly, the fear of failing has to be greater than the fear of actually doing the thing, right? And once that gets over there, it's going to be great, right? Like, so I used the date example. The fear of being single the rest of your life has to be greater than the fear of going on that date, right? The fear of going out here and someone saying something mean to you versus the fear of staying where you're at right now. A lot of people have different fears, but once you put fears into perspective, a lot of things start changing, right? A lot of people have a fear of jumping out of an airplane. If you have a parachute, it won't be as scary. But the fear of jumping off an airplane without a parachute, it's immense, right? And the fear of that versus the fear of cold calling is so much different, right? Like, hey, I have a very natural fear of poisonous snakes. And it's not because it's just an irrational fear, but if I see a snake that could probably end me in 5 seconds with one bite, I have a very natural fear of it. If you equate that to the fear of someone saying something mean to you in wholesaling, it's completely different, right? And I mean, rattlesnakes, I'm okay with a rattlesnake, but like, I'm talking about like natural fears, right? And I don't fear many things. Poisonous snakes are one, and bull sharks. That's pretty much it. Bull sharks are bad. They're bad news. They'll attack people. But really, outside of that, there's not many things that can fear me, right? And we're going to break down some of those common other fears you're going to have. But one thing I want you to think in your mind, and this is one trick to become less fearful to get into wholesaling. And I don't want you guys to use this trick, but it is a trick. Maybe you should not wholesale right now, and maybe you should struggle more. What I mean by this is I want you guys to start wholesaling now. That's personally what I want everyone to do watching this video. I want you to start getting the traction on here. Maybe you just have to be more broke. Maybe you have to be living with your parents in a basement at 54 years old and literally have no money and no prospects at all before your actual fear of wholesaling is diminished compared to your fear of staying where you're at the rest of your life, right? Maybe that fear has to be so great. Maybe you have to have more struggle in your life before you actually say, you know what, I'm going to make that change. Maybe that's the case. I don't want it to be the case, but for some of you out here, I would rather you start wholesaling now and overcome the fear versus staying where you're at and struggling more. Because that pain and trauma of struggling, you have to just say, I'm sick of it. I'm going to make that change and get into wholesaling. The problem is some of you guys actually have to struggle more before you're actually like, okay, you know what? I should just change this up, right? And it's kind of like touching a hot stove, right? Maybe it's a little lukewarm and you know it's going to get hotter.
Yeah.
And you're just saying, no, I'm going to stick it here. I'm going to stick it here. Maybe you got to start boiling that water before you're like, okay, I got to get my hand off of here. Maybe you guys have to have your hand burned before you actually start getting the holes. I'd rather you start doing it when it's lukewarm before you get burned. But hey, maybe you have to deal with that. I don't want you guys to, but that's a very easy way to get over the fear. Maybe you just want to procrastinate and struggle more, and then you finally get into wholesaling, right? I hate to say it. So we do these one-on-ones, and so many wholesalers, they start wholesaling month 1. They go to the point till month 6, right? Where they are DMing me for $1,000 a month for money. And I'm like, why are you DMing me for $1,000 a month? And they say, I haven't gotten a deal in 6 months. I said, you never hopped on a one-on-one call. They're like, well, now I need the money. And now I'll hop on a one-on-one with you now after 6 months of struggling and wholesaling. It's like, why don't you talk to me one-on-one now? My second favorite is when people hop on the one-on-ones and they say, Zach, I have a seller and they backed out of the contract and I don't know what to do. I'm like, well, why didn't you hop on to me when they first said that? Because they do it 2 weeks after they say it, right? Yeah. Like, come on, right? And so it drives me crazy, but I think so many wholesalers out here have this big fear, right? And I think you get over that fear by maybe struggling more, right? I struggled enough where I didn't want to deal with it. And I knew what would happen if I kept struggling, but sometimes you guys have to get through it, right?
So my struggle, to be honest with you, it's when sometimes at your most pivotal points in life, when you're tired, broke, or you're beyond overwhelmed and confused, you allow your body has this way of allowing you to make a decision. And some of the most pivotal companies, the most pivotal like decisions people made is what we call at like a rock bottom. Now, I'm not saying you have to hit rock bottom, but so let me give you my example. I put in 11 years with the company. I did everything they ever asked, 80 hours a week minimum. And that's not an exaggeration, 6 days a week. They were talking about moving me all over the country. I had young kids at the time. And I'm sitting down with my wife, trying to figure out which bill we're going to pay this month. And I just said, you know what? They haven't fulfilled my expectations for them. And the handwriting's on the wall. You know why? Because 5 of my bosses got fired before me. And I was just going to be another stat looking for another job. And when you get that frustrated from that, your frustration becomes your greatest achievement. So a lot of people think you really make key decisions when you're at the top. Actually, when you make the worst decisions, when you're struggling, you get down to the core of yourself. I just wanted freedom and I wanted abundance of money. And wholesaling, I found, was going to accomplish that. But if I did not go through my struggle, unfortunately, I went through it over 12 years total. It just built up, and it built up to the point I go, you know what? It can't get any worse than what I have now. I might as well give it a shot. And that's how I did it. But remember, the reason I'm sitting in front of you, the reason he's here is I made a decision at what I thought was the lowest point. I just didn't. If your company doesn't meet your expectation, which a lot of you can agree with, you have to make a decision. I gave it too long. I should have been gone after 3 or 4 years. I waited. And that's why I'm here talking to you today. So my decision to get me out of where I was made when I felt I was at my lowest point working for a company. And I just gave up. I was never going to get where I got. And so I said, I remember telling my wife, I go, what do we have to lose? She's like, the house, the car, the kids, everything else. I'm just like, listen, I just don't think it can get any worse than this. I was basically owned by a corporation. And I can't believe now I gave all that time and energy to it, but that was my learning curve. So if you guys can relate with that, I'm just trying to explain. He did a little bit younger in his life. He's talking about like a bag boy, and he figured out quickly on an hourly rate, I'm never going to get ahead to do this. So you don't have to wait till you hit rock bottom. You just got to make a decision. Most great decisions are made out of pure frustration. Like, I can't take it anymore. I'm going to make a change. So you don't have to wait to get to that point, but you're going to have to go through your fear factor when addressing wholesaling.
I agree. And I think so many wholesalers just watching this, they deal with a lot of struggle, but you got to just conquer the fear, right? And what I can tell you is, I didn't write this down, but like you say this all the time, but you can always go back, right? Like if you fail at wholesaling, you can always just go back to that. Like you can always do it.
You can always go back to your old life. I promise you, it's waiting for you. It wants you so bad. And you're going to have to avoid all the temptations to become a wholesaler, to get you financially free, to get control of your time with your family. And that fear is a constant. It's just your subconscious trying to do what? Pull you back into familiarity, because your body is running your life and your mind's not running it. And you're going to have to reverse that order, and fear takes over. Now, we talk about physical pain of fear. I'm not telling you abandon that, but like mental status, it's hard. Guys, I worked for the same company 11 years. I literally felt like I was on an island when I did this. I'm like, and the minute I had a bad month, I'm like, maybe I should, let me see if they still kept my job, and I kept going and running that through my head. I said, no, I want to change. I want to change. So the number one fear people have to get over there is their addiction to their paycheck every 2 weeks.
Yeah. And people,
that's like you have to have it. And when you get rid of that, it's kind of weird. And it does take some time to get through it. So just relating my story.
Yeah. And people think wholesaling is like all or nothing, right? If I don't get into wholesaling, I'm be homeless, right? Like, it's not like that. Okay. You can always get a job, and even the skills you learn in wholesaling will translate to any sales job or really any job you have in general from most sectors in the economy, right? So it's like, it's not too bad, right? And I just want people to understand that, right? And a very common fear I see with a lot of people, and this is true, but It's a fear of someone is going to arrest you or sue you or scream at you in wholesaling. So let's break down these things. So let's talk the scariest thing to happen. Somebody arrests you for wholesaling, right? Wholesaling real estate is either done with a lawyer, so an attorney state, or it is done by a title company, which 90% of the time has a lawyer there to underwrite, check things, and do things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And with the title company that we use, they were actually owned by a lawyer. So a lawyer is actually going through making sure the title company was as legit as possible, right? And the owner of the title company, love him, he was a lawyer. And we've met with him plenty of times. And this is before I even got into wholesaling. Hey, are you okay if I wholesale? Yeah, wholesaling's legal. He's a lawyer, right?
Yeah.
His legal advice was wholesaling's legal, right? And that being said, it's almost impossible. And this is a quote from me. Take it out of context. Okay, it's almost impossible to get arrested for wholesaling if a title company is there. And there's ways to get arrested by wholesaling, but that's because you just break regular laws. So let me give you an example of how you can get arrested for wholesaling. And let's think of, devil's advocate here. You convince somebody to go sell their property, and you forge their signature. Let's say you forge a contract. That's forgery. We have laws against it. That is 100% illegal. Never do that. But let's say you do it, for example, right? Guess what happens when you forge someone's contract to buy it for, $1,000 and it's worth $1 million. The title company is going to go call that seller up and let them know, hey, closing's on this date. I never signed a contract. Title company says, you never signed a contract. We're not doing title company would stop that. If you do anything illegal in a real estate transaction, the title company is going to see that and not give title insurance to it, right? Because they'll lose a bunch of money. And so if you're using a title company or a lawyer, you're not going to get arrested for wholesaling real estate. And that's the funniest. Everyone's like, wholesaling's illegal in Oklahoma. Title companies read the law, and it is not illegal to wholesale in Oklahoma. And they know the law because they have legitimate lawyers. I don't care that your guru's uncle's sister said it was illegal, who's a realtor. The actual lawyers read the law, and plenty of interpretations came from it that wholesaling is legal in Oklahoma, Nebraska, Arizona, all these places, right? And title companies will still do it with lawyers looking at it. And I just want everybody to, watching this to understand this, that wholesaling is legal in all 50 states. Oh, what about this? Wholesaling is legal in all 50 states. And there's ways around all the stuff. And even in Illinois, there's ways around it. I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not giving legal advice. Reach out to title companies and they'll help you out with this.
Yeah. But so you guys, you've spent an entire year of every guru on this face of the earth trying to scare you. One of the latest trends is you got to join my team or join my my brokerage and we'll protect you. I'm like, I don't understand. So you guys have this has been like a perpetual theme, and it's, in my opinion, it's done by design. Guys, I've been doing this 20 years. I have never, ever in my entire 20 years, and I know a lot of people across the country know of anyone who ever got arrested for wholesaling. It doesn't mean people get arrested for breaking the law. If you deceive people, if you're fraudulent, there's laws that has nothing to do with wholesaling. Those are just bad people. But you just can't get arrested for wholesaling. It's the biggest fear mongering out there. And I just telling you guys, I've seen people question, but usually it comes down to ethics. Did you get a legitimate signature? By using a title company we talk about, that puts a third party to oversee your transactions. And they'll also tell you, hey, I see this coming down the pipeline, and we want you to do things correctly. This is why we only teach wholesaling, guys. There's a million tricks out there.
We teach real estate investing.
Yeah, but do you guys know a lot of the stuff that's being pushed on you? I'm not even going to get into details. A lot of it is borderline wrong. So when we talk about recording liens and stuff, you're supposed to incorporate lawyers. Do you know an investor just can't go record a $50,000 or $100,000 lien without having a legitimate service. And if you ever went to court, you're probably going to get killed on that. What wholesaler has a $100,000 fee that you can record a lien on? It makes no sense.
Well, let me give you an example. One thing that we told you, which is in a gray line, that we're not saying you can get arrested, but you potentially could, are novations, right? We don't like novations. And what I could tell you is we have talked to many title companies in Florida and many lawyers in Florida that own title companies. And they say, we know the law and novations are strictly illegal in our view, a lawyer's view. Yeah. Multiple lawyers have said this, and we will not do any novations at the title company. So I'm just letting you know that even if I try to do a novation, which I think still borderline, you could get arrested for it, but maybe not. You got to do it the right way. Title companies in Florida, most of them will not do it because they don't think it's legal. And so a title company would stop you from doing a guru novation because they think it's illegal and you could potentially get in trouble for it and sued for it. But like title companies will protect your butt.
Yeah. So the challenge is for most people trying to make novations like successful, the secret leverage they use over homeowners and trying to sell a disgruntled homeowner that's unrealistic on their price and you're partnering up with them. If that doesn't scare you in that statement alone, and you would still want to go forward, is doing a novation, everything could be questioned, and the homeowner is the one that can come after you for it. So say, okay, I'm going to insure my profit I get paid. I'm going to record a $50,000 lien. Wow. You would stand in front of a judge. How are you going to justify? A lien has to be for services that are actually performed, and you have to be a licensed professional to do that. We are none of that. Like, so a lien is designed for someone who does a roof. Do you notice to do a correct lien and doing like a bill of sale work, you have to have a bill of sale. You have to have a notice of commencement over $2,500 in most states. Oh, you didn't do that. We're going to skip that part. And you're going to be challenged in so many ways. And then when the judge goes, you did a power of attorney. How's your fiduciary responsibility to it? They're never. So just understanding if a homeowner ever challenges a novation, most of you are going to lose because don't get me wrong, novations, it makes sense in certain times when it's the right thing to do. But teaching a brand new wholesaler that it's 2.0, like flipping, man, power of attorney, you need an attorney to assist you. Recording a lien, you should have an attorney and a title company assisting it to you. And for that reasons alone, this can get you trouble in wholesaling because honestly,
and in the law,
you take advantage of the homeowner because once you did the power of attorney, you had a fiduciary responsibility to it. But that's why I don't teach it because there's a lot of moving documents. And honestly, if you guys have ever had a disgruntled homeowner, which we see plenty of time in wholesaling, can you imagine if you were their business partner?
Yeah,
and so why would I teach you something that will it work? Yeah, as long as nobody complains. But I'm telling you, what are the odds of somebody complaining on a novation? They're very high because the odds of you successfully doing that thing to their expectations. So if the homeowner is expecting to get a $30,000 payday at the end of the closing and it's 20, they're going to come after you. So guys, people don't get arrested wholesaling. They get arrested for breaking the law and trying to do tricks of things that they don't understand. I will tell you, I've been walked down a lot of roads and I did things and I didn't completely understand it. And whenever I've tried anything like that, it will get you problems. So that's the problem with novations is you've got a lot of moving parts. And the reality is you're basically controlling a property with no money into it. And guys, if people are complaining about wholesaling that's 100% legal, novations is just a trick. So title companies have recognized the novation things because they hear it more and more. Guess what? You are now eventually, they're going to do a workaround just like we did short sale flips. Bank-owned properties, they usually have a 90-day restriction. On any type of novation, you're going to have to fully establish the lien. And most of the liens are going to have at least 12 months seasoning. So what do you guys do? You record a lien, you try to sell it 60, 90 days later. The title companies are not going to insure or recognize those liens. And you're going to have more and more problems with it. It's only going to get worse. Why? Because people decided this is a cheap way, an easy way to do wholesaling. Guys, if it's quick and easy and it's a shortcut, it's just going to create more problems in the long run. So never do something that you don't fully understand because that is not a defense when you stand in front of a judge. Just because you don't understand it doesn't make it right. And so if somebody can't explain the basic logistics to you, run. End of story.
I agree. So yeah, you can get arrested for that, but just be very careful with it, right? So that's why we like just talking about wholesaling in general, right? So if you do a subject to wrong, you get arrested. You do a wholesaling wrong, the title company just won't close on the deal, right? So that's the biggest difference between creative financing and wholesaling, in my opinion, is if you do creative financing wrong, you will get arrested. Don't you agree?
There's a lot of moving parts.
If you do it wrong, maybe even sued, but you're could
most likely going to get sued. But the only person that's ever really outside the homeowner always has the most control. And if you take care of them and always use them to make sure they're satisfied, you can avoid problems. But it's when a homeowner reaches out to like a state attorney and their target, and this one goes, wow, you did like 40 or 50 of these. Let me reach out to all these people, get a class action suit.
Yeah.
That's where you can get problems. Like, honestly, you can find a technicality almost on any contract, even your wholesale contract. Some of you guys don't perfect the earnest money and stuff like that. So the biggest thing you can ensure to keep your stuff out of trouble is always take care of the homeowner. And when a homeowner complains and says, hey, I'm not closing, or this isn't what you promised in this agreement and stuff like that, it is your duty, your job, your obligation to make it right. You people that go, well, I'm just going to record an affidavit, you don't understand how this game works, because then you have to go in front of a court of law and a judge is going to tell you what you did wrong or what you did. And guess who gets the benefit of the doubt? The homeowner always gets it. So if you don't understand it, ask questions. Guys, just because sometimes the problem, the whole problem in real estate investing, especially wholesaling in general, is you guys, the marketers, the gurus, have perfected their pitch. They know how to solve every problem from a marketing perspective. The truth, though, is when you ask questions, is this correct? Is it legal? And do I need legal advice to do this? You will never get a correct answer on any of this stuff, because that blows holes into their marketing pitch. So most of our 95% failure, which is admitted by all the gurus in wholesaling, is because you guys buy into their marketing pitch. I'll sit on the beach, I'll flip a property. If you think there's something to replace wholesaling and call it 2.0 and it's like super easy, you're missing some key parts of the details that are going to be hugely problematic. And by the way, they're coming up everywhere now. And I'm just telling you, put in the hard work. If you want to lose weight, you actually have to eat less and you have to become more active. Take a magical pill. It might work for a few months, but you're eventually going to go back to your old self. So make the change. But I will tell you, 20 years, if you do not understand what someone's explaining to you and it has holes, most likely it's going to be problematic. And if you don't fully understand it and your risk and your liability, please don't do it.
I agree. So I think one thing y'all got to understand is we say about creative finance that we still do subject to lease options, owner. We do all that, but we have a lot of lawyers that help us out with it. So I'm just letting everybody know that. Let's talk about the suing part, right? So here's the thing about suing, and I'm not here to scare you or anything, but like you get sued for anything. For example, if I'm walking down the street and you bump into my shoulder, I could sue you. Like legitimately, I could sue you, and I could sue you for, let's say, $5 million in damages, right? Guess what? I will not win the lawsuit, but I can still sue you, right? I can sue anybody. A lawyer's going to take my money all day, right? You look at me funny during a live stream, I could sue you. Is that a good look on me? No, right? Should I spend $40,000 trying to sue somebody for bumping into me? I'm going to lose that lawsuit, right? And so anybody could sue you for anything, right? Now, how do you not get sued in wholesaling, right? This is a pretty easy one, but there's only 2 rules to follow for you not to get sued in wholesaling real estate, okay? Number 1, do the right thing. Just think about it. Like, for 99% of people watching this, they know the difference between right or wrong, okay? You don't need to go look at any rules to know what's right. Like, you can look at something like, hey, is that right or wrong? So think about it. Is stealing right or wrong? Stealing is not right, don't go to a grocery store and steal, right? That's not right. Is it wrong to go out here and, not work out or eat unhealthy food? That's probably not the right thing to do, right? A lot of people know what the right thing or wrong thing to do. Is it the right thing to do a rolling stop at a stop sign?
I do.
That's ethical, moral. That's
I do it all.
If there's no one around you, that's not like a hard line issue, right? Like that's like, So you got to really look at it from that perspective. So how do you get sued? Let's say, for example, you have an elderly person, right? They're 95 years old and they want to sell their house, and you seem like they're not in the right mindset. Most people would be like, that's probably not the right thing to do, to go try to buy their house without talking to their family, right?
Mm-hmm.
Most people have an ethical compass, right? And so, for example, for us, like we have sellers that are 94 years old all the time. I had one, this older gentleman, he fought in the Battle of the Bulge in Old Fort Pierce.
I fight that battle every day.
The legitimate Battle of the Bulge,
okay.
World War II. And he had some very interesting stuff. He's definitely a hero, right? And he came back from the war. And I think in the 40s, he bought a house in Fort Pierce, right? He's living in it for 70 years. And amazing guy. And him and his wife wanted to sell their house. They're both in their 90s, late 90s. And I was really like, here's so many war stories and stuff. It was really impressive. And I was like, okay, I would like to go buy your house and things, but do you have any family members who can go meet me there? And I met with the son. He went to the property too, and he was a 60-year-old lawyer. 60-year-old lawyer. Think about that. His son's 60, all gray hair. I'm like, that's your son. Just kind of funny. And he was actually a lawyer. And he came with, and I explained it, and I made sure he was in the room when I negotiated with him. And it was kind of funny because I kept trying to talk to the son, and he's like, do not talk to me, because the wife was in their 90s, and she was very stern that she makes the decisions around town. And we ended up negotiating, and we didn't get a deal. But the thing is, that's just the stuff you got to do. So like, hey, my son's actually 20 minutes away. Hey, is it okay if he comes also? It's stuff like that to make the family feel like they're included, because I don't want to give a lowball offer to a seller and they don't know what the property is worth. I always tell every seller, hey, your property, you could probably sell it more with a realtor. I always explain everything like that. And that house needed a bunch of work. I mean, no renovations basically since 1974 in the house, mold everywhere. But like, I'm just telling you, do what's right. And in my opinion, the way I look at real estate, I thought it was the right thing to do to have the family included. Mm-hmm. If anybody's over the age of 65, I always try to call a niece, nephew, son, daughter, cousin, uncle, whatever. Just to let, hey, this is Zach. I'm just letting you know I'm actually talking to your uncle, Jonathan, and I was just letting you know we're looking to buy his property, but you said he lived alone. I just want to make sure the family knows, make sure he knows where he's going, things like that. And he's 65. What are you talking about? Even if they're 65 or older, I just want to make sure, because homeowners that are 65 and older do have more rights, as they're considered elderly, right? And they do have more rights in the law. So you always want to do what's best for them. How do you get sued? You don't do any of that stuff, right?
Yeah.
You don't. And number two, you don't use a title company. Like, legit, if you use a title company, if you ever, God forbid, got sued, you're going to be protected because you use a good title company, right? And title companies have disclosures. So, hey, here's my favorite part. And people have this fear. I've never had this done once. I've never had this once. Let me know if you ever, has anyone ever called you after you've done a deal and said, I'm so mad you bought my house for lowball and you made a profit off of me? Rah, 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 rah. You never get that. You know why? Because they sold the house, right? You only get that when you do creative financing and like other things, right? Oh, I don't like what's going on, novations, right? The thing is, when you use a title company, you sign all these disclosures. Hey, I know that I'm signing my deed over and I'm not going to be the owner and I'm going to get this much for the house. You sign it like there's like 30 documents to sign. Like, you know that you're selling the house, and the closing agent tells you a billion times. They call you a week before the day, but you get all these disclosures. So if somebody sues you for putting a contract on the property to buy it, you signed all these disclosures, basically saying you agree to it. So what they really could be doing is they should be suing the title company, not you, right? And if you do a lawsuit, I'm telling you, you could probably countersue the person for legal expenses for suing you for selling their house, right? Now, there's other things around that, right? So the only thing you can do, right, is sometimes a buyer can sue a seller. I've seen that on the MLS before, that they didn't disclose it had a problem with it.
You know who they mostly sue?
Who?
Licensed people.
Yeah.
Why? Because they all have insurance policies, and it's really easy to sue a real estate agent. Very hard to sue an individual real estate investor or a wholesaler. I know this personally because when you sit down with people, real estate agents and brokers have what they call an E&O policy, and it stands for errors and omissions. And everyone goes for $50,000 to $100,000 per incident. And it's a pain in the butt. You know that little disclosure like realtors give on the form?
Yeah.
I've had leaks and all stuff. So whenever you buy a house, you never, ever, under any circumstances, fill out a disclosure. Why? Because you don't know anything about the house. And the minute you try to warranty something like that, you're liable. Realtors, on the other hand, they're pretty much forced to do it. And that checklist is what most people will sue on. The truth of suing, and God knows I've been sued enough. You do this business long enough, anybody can sue you. I can sue you just for you didn't look at me the right way. I don't like how America does that. If I could fix it, it would be like they do in Europe. Because in Europe, if you lose the lawsuit, you get your butt kicked. In the United States, they don't set it up because it's set up for the lawyers, the politicians, everyone to make money. The people that sue you, by the way, it's never the person goes, I'm going to sue you. When people use that as an empty threat, it's a joke. Most lawsuits, when you open your mouth, say you're going to sue it, you got to pull 15 grand out of your pocket. And that's just to get it started. Most people sue you because they're hurt. You did not meet their expectations and you didn't try to rectify it. I have never met someone that either tried to sue me or a business or anybody else that I'm aware of that got sued, that they always try to rectify it with you. Hey, can we sit down and talk? Can we work it out? Most people sue to get your attention and they feel like they've been completely disrespected. So I want you to understand, most lawsuits, when you have a problem, sit down and work it out, because by avoiding it, it will only proliferate and get worse. And so the record I always tell Zach, if somebody threatens to sue you, rarely do they ever do it. It's the quiet one that you really piss off and you think you're getting away with it. Because when you go to a court of law, basically they put their complaint in, you have 20 days to respond. If you've ever been served with a lawsuit and you've never worked a realtor, that 20 days is horrifying, because just to try to get your appointment with the lawyer, it's hard to get that done, because the lawyer goes, listen, I need 10 grand up front to even respond to this. What if you don't have 10 grand? What if you just started out? So if you do the right thing, you protect the seller at best. And then if you get in a dispute with a buyer or something like that, I'm telling you, sit down and work it out. Because if not, the reason they do lawsuits is to force you to sit in front of a common sense judge or jury to say, hey, listen, here's my side, here's his side. This is how I got screwed, and let's fix it.
And remember, people that sue you actually have money. So I'll give you two quick examples.
And by the way, 90% of lawsuits are settled before they ever go to trial. So a lot of lawsuits are either, number one, is somebody's been hurt. It's just the truth, man. People get so hurt and they use the lawsuit and they take it very personally.
But hurt, not hurt.
Or there's the other ones that can be attorney driven. You know, the guys like, you know, once my wife was in a parked car in a parking lot. She got hit by a car, exchanged insurance information. When it was all said and done, she got sued. Why does that happen? That's induced by a personal injury, a lawyer. So you could have a state attorney that the only reason they're going to pursue you is because a homeowner complained about you. When it's lawyer driven, oh, it's horrifying. But when it's personal, most people are just trying to get your attention and go, you didn't respect me, and you are now going to respect me one way or the other. And here's the problem with those. They get very personal, and money's not an object at that point. They'll pay a lawyer 30 grand to expose you and go through depositions.
So what I'm telling you is, those type of people that'll sue you just because they have the money and they want to make a statement.
It's a power move.
It's a power move, but those are very rich people usually.
Yeah. And they know you're probably not going to respond on it. And if you don't, it'll even get worse. They'll put a judgment on you and they're going to go after everything you got.
So now you're scaring people.
I'm not scaring you. I'm just, what I'm saying is make it right to people when you have a problem.
But here's the thing, that those type of people are not your motivated sellers.
No.
Okay. Your motivated sellers is not going to drop 50K to sue you to make your life miserable. Okay. That never happens. What usually happens in real estate transactions is a very rich cash buyer. The only threatened could ever sue you. And the thing is, if you go to use a title company that will disclose to the cash buyer that this property is being sold as is and legitimately, you won't get sued. The issue is when that doesn't happen, and it happens usually with a big transaction and a huge issue is not disclosed, and you're trying to pull a fast one. Most people that sell luxury properties, they don't actually go out here and they don't do as-is contracts, right? They use regular realtor contracts.
Yeah.
As-is contracts are the contracts that we use in wholesaling. They disclose everything. This property is being sold as is. You know the clear condition and you are buying it knowing there could be issues with it. Most real estate contracts on the MLS are not done like that, right? And so we have special protection to say, hey, when this is sold, it's not our problem. We know there's issues with the property. The issue is a rich cash buyer could sue you if they don't sign that stuff, which we literally have in our freewholesaling.com. So just letting you know from there. And remember, you're only going to get sued from somebody that actually has money. I remember one issue, you know this issue, a broke guru said they're going to sue me for everything. They're taking everything away from me because I gave out information that they have patented in their course. here's the thing. They go to the lawyer because they're butthurt. They're butthurt because they're losing sales from me. They go to the lawyer, and the lawyer basically says it'll be 20 grand to start the lawsuit and probably another 30 grand to get it going. I can go tit for tat for these guys, right? Like I can go, if you want to put 50, I'll put 50 grand to defend myself, but I will countersue you for probably 100 grand of my time. And once that broke guru said, wait, I have to drop 30 grand to sue Zach and I could get countersued. And wait, you're telling me that that information that I have patented was already, wait, Rick already had that type of information 15 years ago when he actually has proof of it?
Nope.
Oh no. Right. And guess what they say? He's like, I don't have 30 grand to sue Zach and I could lose a lot of money because I'm a broke guru.
And they claim to be, multi-millionaires.
Yeah.
And this is the problem across the whole industry. Listen, I don't care how much money someone makes. Honestly, to me, it's kind of a scorecard. It's just play. Like at the end of the day, you can't take it with you. So when people tell you that they're going to sue you, I just kind of like chuckle because you have no idea what it takes. And then my favorite part is, remember when he or she said, oh, it'd take a few months. I'm like, dude, lawsuits go on for years. I've personally been involved one that went on 8 years.
And here's the funniest part. Like, I don't talk about this all the time, but I literally have no fear of lawsuits because I get threatened to be sued by gurus on a monthly basis. And I hate to say that, but it's true. I say something on a video and they say that is actually in my course and you have to delete that video right now. I did a video about wholesaling vacant land and they said that information you gave on wholesaling vacant land is in my course and that's actually my copyright information. I can pop up this book from 1974 that talks about subject twos, how to wholesale land, how to this is a book from the 70s. Anything you tell me, this stuff's already been done. You did not invent it. I got one guy told me, I remember one guy threatened to sue me because I gave a sales secret out. This is a Zig Ziglar book where I learned the secret from. This is a Secrets of Closing the Sale book from, let's see what year. You see the page is yellow. This from the 90s or the 80s? 1984.
Yeah,
like the information I give comes from like other people, obviously, in books and things like that. So I get threatened to sue. And then whenever someone tries to sue me, I can go use proof like that. And then they can't put it up. Guys, I've had gurus' wives DM me saying they're going to sue me. Gurus' wives are my DMs. It's interesting. But can you confirm that?
Yeah. No,
when people
threaten to sue, I just kind of like, you haven't done much time in a courtroom. So honestly, I'm well versed in it and I understand it because it's there's a lot of people out on the internet like take scam artists and then the scam artist will sue them. And they do it on purpose. Why? Because then they can do discovery and depositions. And then once you do that, then they have to open up all their books in their business. So there's a lot that goes on a lawsuit because everything has to be fair. It has to be public and you have to share the information. So a lot of people get sucked in these traps. I'm like, so if you don't run like a clean cut business and you like sue someone, it's bad. But like for the most part, when people say they sue you, I don't worry about it. It's the ones that are upset and secretly walk away. You better pay attention and just rectify it because once a lawsuit starts, they're very hard to unwind and it's a pain in the butt. And it's going to cost you money. So getting to the last part, the screamed at, I'm going to guarantee you're going to get that. There's just no way around it. Some people just can't control their emotions. Remember, everybody is going through something in their life. They're just projecting it on you and don't take it personally. I used to take it personally. You just got to let it go. You know how many times I've been told they're sending the FBI and like the SWAT team because I sent somebody a piece of mail or they got like a cold call. I'm like, okay. Like I don't sweat it anymore.
Yeah. So guys, you're not going to get sued or arrested every time. What's the DNC list? The DNC list is an illegal gray area, but I'm letting you know that because you are not selling something, you're asking somebody if you're looking to buy their house. Usually that's in the gray area and you won't be sued. I don't know one person sued for breaking DNC law for wholesaling real estate. I've not found
fined. That's it.
No, not fined. Like I haven't seen one person fined for that. The people I've seen getting fined is when they actively break FCC laws or FTC laws. And the only person in real estate I know that has gotten a fine is two people. One person for RVMs, which is not cold calling. I've never told anyone to do it, right? And number two, and this is very important, lying to sellers. I've seen the FTC, they sued Open Door, I think, for $60 million for telling people that they will make more money selling with them for cash than with a realtor, which is obviously a lie. If you don't lie to your seller, you're going to be fine. And I always tell every single seller that we'll probably make more money with a realtor than going with me. And because you want to deal with a motivated stinking seller.
So as in regards to the FTC, you notice they go after, they rather take down the biggest player on the block.
Yeah.
So they go Open Door, sometimes they go after Zillow. By the way, the Department of Justice has been constantly attacking NAR for a monopoly. Like this has been going on like 10 years plus. So
yeah,
the thing is, if FTC ever came down to like the guru, especially the wholesaling space,
they do actually.
Every one of them would be.
The biggest Amazon FBA coach, I think, just got fined $50 million.
Yeah, I saw that.
Nothing against that guy, but I just saw that like they go after they go after coaches for fraudulent stuff. And
so most of the claims that gurus make, remember, they're asking for payment in exchange for what I call a promise. When you guys get like a promise, or you get testimonials that aren't verified, and you got like John T. Come on. So the problem is they don't share their success rate. They only give you like the wild success stories, and you guys are making decisions based on that. And FTC says you got to give full disclosure. Why do you think like those car commercials run? You ever see like that giant? It's like there's got to be 800 words, and you'd have to have like a microscope to read it.
Yeah. So just be careful, guys. So the next part here is how do you overcome this fear, right? And just having that mindset shift, but practice and experience. I'm telling everybody that practice and experience is going to help you get over pretty much all of your fear, right? And what I can tell you is we were all scared starting out, right? So one thing I can tell you is I've done a lot of things that have made me scared or worried to really get into something, right? And what I can tell you is, first of all, cold calling. I was very scared to start cold calling. And eventually I did a lot of cold calls and I'm not scared of it anymore, right? And I kind of look at a lot of things, right? And I think a lot of people have fear that they're going to stink at what they do starting out. I will tell you, my first Call of Duty video game ever was Modern Warfare 1, okay? And not even World at War, Modern Warfare 1. I played online Modern Warfare 1 for 4 hours on Saturdays after school. And I couldn't even get one. Like, I couldn't get any scoring. Like, I was so bad. Eventually, I got really good at it because I put the time in. It's like any video game out here. You just got to put the time in to get better. I was super scared to do my first wrestling match. I think I was 2-20 my first year wrestling, and that was on the JV team. And then going to being like, I think 30-2 my senior year in high school, right? It's like, it just takes time to get better at what you're doing. And you're really going to suck at the beginning, but you can get really good at the end if you just keep it up and you don't stop, right? And it's like anything in life. If you want to get better at something, you just got to keep practicing and having the experience and going at it, right?
Yeah, the key to the wholesaling is you take massive amounts of action and you earn as you learn. And we've all been brought up in a school system where you go 20 years of schooling, then you get thrown in the real world, and then you actually have to learn how to do it. So most wholesaling is just reverse engineer on how the real world works. If you think you're going to sit here 4 years and study material in theory and then go learn it out into the field, you're better off going out in the field and just take a ton of action. You're going to make a ton of mistakes, but honestly, that's the true experience in life. You making mistakes is the experience, and that's what ultimately makes you better. And nobody's going to do wholesaling without going through the journey. I don't care if you pay someone or you do it with me and Zach free. The journey has to be earned, and you earn it through experiences. And some are going to be phenomenal and some are going to be bad. But that's life in general. You can't take it too personal. You got to learn just to detach yourself from the outcome, and that way you can methodically just keep going through it.
And here's the thing. So, like, you like the movie Rocky, right?
Yeah, it's all.
I love Rocky, right? How cool would Rocky be if he just won every match and every boxing match and he was just undefeated and he did 2 punches and everyone got knocked out? It'd be a boring story, right? And that's not how boxing works, right? Rocky had to get his butt kicked a couple times and then eventually get better and then beat Dragunov, right? Like, the thing is, it's kind of like Rocky. It's like you look at any superhero movie, right? Like, it's not perfect. Like, there's struggle, there's bad stuff that like there's going to be struggle. Like, it's everything.
And
right?
you know what's even better with the Rocky is the story of Sylvester Stallone trying to get that to a
screenplay. That's another thing too.
The guy got rejected, not hundreds of times. He said thousands. I think he tried for what, 5 or 10 years to get it. And then he had things he didn't want to negotiate on. And it just, they said he was down to his last time and he's broke and he took one final swing and it changed the whole trajectory of his life. Now, you guys don't have to go that extreme. It's not that hard in wholesaling, but you have to be willing to endure and get through it. So the Rocky story is kind of funny because the story behind it's even better.
Yeah. And I tell everyone that. So,
and did you know Paulie, what was he, the brother-in-law?
Yeah.
He was an actual legitimate real boxer.
Probably. Yeah.
And he had a winning record. He
That's
fought
cool.
in the military and everything else. I'm finding it
cool.
out. So he could probably beat up Rocky.
Probably. Yeah. Last part here. And I'll challenge people watching this video, right? If you have a fear of wholesaling, fear of cold calling, anything like that, I challenge everybody. I'm giving everybody actually an out to quit wholesaling. Okay. This is the only out I'm going to give you.
A tap out button. You're like,
yeah, I'll let you quit. Okay. If you do this and you say, it's not for me, I won't even be upset. If you can do 1,000 contacts, which is hellos, conversations, and calls of 1,000 sellers of a drawing for dollars or a government list, and you're still scared to death, if you're just as scared as the first time than the 1,000th, then you should quit wholesaling, right? So I always look at this. If you have a fear for flying in an airplane, after 1,000 airplane rides, you're probably not going to be as fearful as when you started, right?
Yeah.
It's like anything. If I had, I have a very, not natural fear, but like, I'm not a big person who wants to go out here and jump off a parachute. A little worrying to me, I know the risk is very small, but why I'm going to do that? Why I'm going to add that unnecessary risk? If I do it 1,000 times and I have like 4 backup parachutes, I'm going to be fine.
So you basically saying if they get 1,000 leads driving for dollars or government lists
and get 1,000 contacts,
and they're still scared after that, they can tap
quit.
out. It's kind of like Navy, how Navy SEALs do when you have to tap out. What do you have to do when you leave? You have to make it very public. How do you make it public? What do they do when you quit in Navy SEAL? You have to go and stand in front of all your teammates and ring a bell.
Yeah.
And it's just, they said the bell alone has saved like probably 2% of the people doing it because it's such a mental, like you are now physically saying, I checked out and I gave up. So maybe I need to get like an electric buzzard or a bell when people want to tap out. I'm like, you want to ring that bell? You got to do it publicly. But they do it. It's psychological warfare. So like doing this, what he's saying, if you do it, just the action alone will probably solve the problem itself. So do it because you've got nothing to lose and you're trying to fix your situation anyways. Just please, guys, don't let fear be the thing that stops you because it's actually the thing that's saying, okay, I'm going in the right direction. Your comfortability has gotten most of us to the point that's what got me there. And I just said, man, I can't take this anymore. I waited too long, guys. So if you have the ability and you're 16, 17, 18, figure it out now because I promise you the school system's not going to guide you.
Yeah. So that's how you overcome your fear, guys and gals. What I can tell you is life's a funny journey, right? Life's a very interesting journey. And this is the time I'm telling everybody right now that this is the time to actually overcome your fear and get it going, right? There's not going to be a better time to get into wholesaling than just now, right? Wholesaling is going to get more saturated. There's going to be more deals in wholesaling. There's going to be more wholesalers. It's the population. This industry is growing like crazy. This is going to be the best time. If you can look at the best time getting wholesaling, it was probably 10 years ago. The second best time is right now. And we can't go back in time. So why don't we start now? And it's like, hey, I want to get into growing a tree. Should you wait 4 years to start growing a tree or should you start growing a tree now?
Oh, no. Guys, you don't time wholesaling. Like it's just like you don't time the stock market. Sometimes you get lucky, but if you want to play in this game long run, you're better off just starting and figuring it out now because you need to get the experiences. The experiences is going to give you the confidence for you to be an extremely successful wholesaler. So guys, fear is probably the biggest, honestly, of everything me and Zach deal with, it's dealing with what you guys got going on between your ears. And we all have these discussions. You have 70,000 thoughts a day. It doesn't mean you take action on 70,000 thoughts. And did you know that like tomorrow when you have the thoughts, 90% of your thoughts are going to be the same as the thoughts before. It's so crazy how our brain works. But this fear thing, it's a primal thing in you and it's trying to get you to conform back to where you're comfortable. And if you understand comfortable is really uncomfortable, and when you're uncomfortable, That's what will ultimately make you comfortable. So you've got to
Yes.
understand it, because you have to fight what your natural tendencies does. And most people at this point, they just kind of like, well, it's scary. My neighbor told me it's risky. And like, suddenly now you're back into trying to make everybody happy. And I always tell you guys, when you want to do wholesaling, you have to make a decision for yourself. I promise you, you are going to get poo-pooed on. Your family, your friends, everything. And guess what? As soon as you become a success, what are they going to say? I knew he could do it. As she is awesome. And it just ticks you off when you see that. I had this happen a long time, guys. And the only reason people fight you is they want you to stay in their same realms, because then they don't have to deal with their own issues of insecurities and their feeling that it's inadequate. So guys, you only get one life. We all know where we're going in the end. So make the best run humanly possible. If wholesaling connects with you, please don't let fear be the thing that stops you. If you actually excited about this, you've done your research and you really like working with like someone like me and Zach, then you just got to figure a course to get through your fear. That's what we're talking about today.
I agree. So I do want to address the rumors that have been going around with me and Rick lately. We have a leaked email that came out about us. It is true. We both spend 12 grand a day on steroids. We are, as you can tell, we are peak performance athletes. And yes, it is true. We are jacked on steroids all day, every day, because how else can you get this big? I've been getting that rumor a lot lately. And
listen,
it's true. Look at him.
I know.
Look at him. He's on roids right now. You know, like we're all
wish.
just roided out. That's why, you know,
Guys,
we're so
I am
big.
hungry right now and I don't want to go to the gym, but you guys know who he's talking about. But actually,
I'm talking about myself.
I enjoy his message though.
I'm making a
The
joke.
problem is the product. I actually think he's a wonderful guy. Like, he doesn't have a negative thing comes out of his mouth.
I'm just saying it's.
And people don't understand, like,
he's
got a really big business. I get it. It's built on a house of cards. And I get, like, you can look at someone's body and go, dude, come on, man. Like,
it's been rumored that, I take 50,000
no way, dude.
gallons of HGH
Listen,
every day.
I can't handle
all know
sticking
that.
a needle in when the doctor's got to do it. So I was like, I remember with
got my
people
blood
like,
drawn, I was scared.
I hate it, man. So but you know what? Everybody wants to knock down someone, except the problem is he's always denied it. And that's my challenge with it. So anyways, let's move on to it. I don't talk about things I don't know about.
But yeah, that's definitely true that we are on that, and you can take that out of context. And we both have plastic surgery. That's why we look so amazing and beautiful and handsome.
That ain't happening either. That's never going to happen. So
So let's answer some questions. I'm making jokes, but it's kind of funny. But the only thing that is not a joke is the gurus have threatened to sue me. And it is 100% true. And the gurus' wives have been in my DMs. Not your DMs, my DMs.
I don't let them in my DMs.
And it's kind of funny. And hey, and the gurus aren't worth the clout, so I will not mention names. But that's all I'm going to say on there. So let's answer some questions. Lucas says, I'm starting to see a lot of unregistered short-term rentals in my area under the code violations. Are those a waste of time, or should I start including them? I probably won't include it. I just don't think it is.
I would skip it, because most of those are Airbnb violations. So these cities they're so sick and fed up of people running their homes like a hotel. The neighbors are tired of it. I've told you all about Airbnb. Airbnb has a lot of problems. Airbnb's revenue is down over 70%, which means the people that own these properties are down 70%. So it's going to be you're going to have a lot of most of those people that bought them way overpaid for it. So like, you really got to walk them off of a ledge, but it's only get more prolific. So I would concentrate on the core areas, the high grass, the deferred maintenance, stuff that shows that signs the property is distressed, and then connect with the homeowner from there. But I know the list you're talking about, it's going to get monstrous this next year because Airbnb is starting to get a bad rap. And I think it's legit for like vacation destinations. But when you start taking a house in like Port St. Lucie and renting out the bedrooms, you can understand why neighbors would get upset with that. Think about that, guys. And by the way, those of you that like love Airbnb and stuff, do you understand most Airbnbs are not even slightly properly insured? Regular homeowners policies do not cover Airbnb at all. They will immediately disqualify the claim. And you have to go out and get what they call like a short-term rental insurance. And boy, is it expensive. So everyone thinks they're good until they get sued. And to be honest with you, you're most likely to get sued from a rental going bad, especially a short-term and Airbnb, and you're going to have no insurance coverage for the most part on it. But I would avoid that type of list. Go to the core areas.
So Luca has a good question here. How do you So Luca says, how do you guys efficiently train your VAs to gather your government lists, the probates especially, and what qualifications do you look for when finding a VA this type of task? So my favorite way of training a VA, it's actually pretty simple. I want my VA to basically be a mini me, right? So let's say I'm training a VA to pull the probate list, right? The probate list is one of the most profitable lists. We make the most money on that list. We are doing 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. I've even done $100,000 deals on the probates. Here's the issue. It's very time intensive to pull a probate, right?
Yes.
It might take somebody 4 or 5 hours in a week to pull, actually go out here and even cross-reference this data, right? It's very intense, right? So how do I train a VA at $4 or $5 an hour to go do it? Guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to spend 4 or 5 hours actually pulling the probate list. I'm just going to do a screen recording, have audio with it. This is what I did when I was like 19 years old. And I pulled the probates for 5 hours. I recorded it and I showed the entire process. I would pay the VA $20, $30 to watch that 4 or 5 hour uncut, unedited process so they know about it. And then I'll start editing that video a little more. I was getting a little more video editing. But from there, I make a little step-by-step playbook, and then boom, I will actually go the next day and I will pull the probates with them on a screen share. And then once they learn it 3 or 4 times, then they pull it. They just have to do what they do. So monkey see, monkey do. They'll only learn how to pull the list by actually watching you pull the list. And then they'll do that same exact steps.
Screen recording is probably the most valuable thing you can share with the VAs, but you have to take the time to document what you do, because so many VAs fail. Like a lot of them do, and some of their own fault. But for the most part, most VAs fail because they can't get inside your head and figure out what you're doing. So if you hire a VA and then you try to extrapolate what's in your head, it's very painful. So if you're doing probates now, you're doing it yourself, start documenting what you do. And here's the simple way to do it. All the information you're going to give them, you're going to come up with probably 10 sheets. Just take the most valuable 20% of that information and drive it into the VA's head. You cannot overload them with information. So, because they're just like you and me, they're going to lose attention. So find the 20% of your material that's most critical to make it successful and train them that. And then you can keep layering and adding it on from there.
Exactly.
Screen shares are awesome, though.
Bagged Milk, good name, says, hey, Rick, would you further explain the double close method?
It's pretty straightforward.
What's a double close and why would someone want to use it?
A double close is basically all it is 2 closings. They're typically going to be back to back. So let me just explain the mechanics of it and I'll tell you why they do it. So if I buy a property from Zach, I buy it, we close. He's now sold the property. I'm now the owner. That's it. Then I walk into the other room and then I sell it to somebody else. And that's it. There's nothing he can do. There's nothing he can say. He has no control. And then the new buyer doesn't know anything about that previous transaction. So that's the mechanics of it. The reason people do it 9 times out of 10, because the seller is complaining about something, or a lot of times the wholesaler is trying to hide that they're going to make a profit because they're scared the seller is going to get upset. And all this is preventable. Just go over to freewholesaling.com. We teach you how to do it. We tell everyone we make a profit. And if you're scared that your sellers knows you're going to make a profit, they're going to know because they're going to look it up after you wind up assigning the property anyway. So some people do it to remove the seller from freaking out about an assignment fee. Sometimes you're kind of forced to do it because maybe I've had this where I did a deal and then the seller at the last minute, their neighbor was a realtor and they showed up and they go, he's making a $25,000 assignment fee. That's not fair. I go, okay, then I have to go back. I would go get short-term money for transactional money for, I'm talking 20 minutes. It still cost me $3 or $4 grand to do it. And then I would use that money and then I turn around and go in the other room and sell it to my new buyer. The only reason you do double closings is to keep your buyer at bay. And if you do the business correctly, you rarely have to do it. Who cares if you made $100,000 assignment or $1,000 assignment? What's the difference? So Some people like to do it. They feel like they're a little bit more insured with it. It's kind of a personal decision. But here's the downside of it is it's going to cost you twice the closing fees, and it's going to eat into your profit. So honestly, anything that's especially in a small number, $10,000 or less, you're kind of forced to do an assignment, because if not, you're going to give up a third of the transaction to closing fees, because each one of those closings. And by the way, title companies love it because they get twice the fees. So.
Exactly. All right. So Shazadder says, I only have 2 fears: buying too high and not finding an end buyer. These are really easy fears to get over. The first fear of buying it too high, number one, just lowball. Like I'm telling you, if you want to make an offer to a motivated seller, the best thing you can think of is think about an offer that scares you and then go 25% below that. I promise you, you will not buy it too high by doing that. We also have our MAO calculators, everything at freewholesaling.com, or free real estate wholesaling course. If you're scared to find an end buyer, I get this asked all the time, like, Zach, I can't find the buyer. There's no way I could find a buyer here. The best way to go overcome this fear is by just finding a bunch of buyers, right? So I always get asked, I can't sell the deal. I lost the deal, or the buyer backed out. The buyer never backed out. Either you bought the property for too high, you put under contract for too high, or you didn't talk to enough cash buyers. And most of the time you locked it up for too high. And if you don't have enough cash buyers, you're either in a population that's under 50,000 for the city. And if you didn't, you just haven't done enough. So go to Facebook groups. There's plenty of cash buyers there. Cold call the 4 rents. Go to your local property auctions. Even ask your title company. You will never struggle selling your deals if you do these strategies. So many people, they get confused on it. It makes no sense to me, but yeah. Kalen says, DNC can't be solicited via phone. We are wholesalers looking to purchase. And plus, you've talked to many DNC. Yeah, it's all about intent with those people. And so Rags Richard says, I wonder why most gurus don't admit how it took them a while, why they worked their 9-to-5s before they became successful. I don't know why they don't talk about that. But one thing I can tell you is
I did.
They still broke.
Yeah.
I forgot my name. Says, I want to start wholesaling so I can start an ambulance company. That's a decent why, but what I can tell you is once you get good at wholesaling, then you're going to quit it. And so
is that sarcastic or is that real?
I think it's real.
I was thinking like an ambulance chaser, like
no. And
that's interesting. My mom used to work for an ambulance company.
Cleveland Browns over Dolphins. I mean, didn't we?
Who's the quarterback for Cleveland these days?
You already know who the quarterback is.
Is it Deshaun?
Yes.
Did he start yet?
He's going to start next week. This week, yeah.
Is he getting freed or
don't
from the NFL jail?
I don't like that guy. But what I can tell you is,
who do the Browns have?
Huh?
Who else do the Browns have?
Amari Cooper. They got Hunt. They got Chubb. All right. So what I can tell you guys is the Dolphins already whipped the Browns. So like that's a terrible comment.
Done.
It's already a done deal. So Luca wants to know, Rick. He wants to know here. Let's read this. All right, Rick. What industry were you in? And what industry were you in when you were stuck in your 9-to-5?
Well, unfortunately, it wasn't 9 to 5. It was 7 to 7. And that's the truth. 6 days a week. And a famous movie by Will Ferrell starred in it summed it up best. So I was with Enterprise Leasing. It's they give you the tools to be a management trainee. And hey, I took it right out of college, and they taught me how to clean a car in 95 degrees in the highest humidity while I was in a suit. So I will tell you, they gave me some good on-the-job training, but they were looking for good soldiers out of college, and God, did I fall like right into it. So
oh my God,
it's a fun fact.
Autumn says, just listening to Sir Rick is soothing and easing my nerves.
See, that's my age, man, because it's just like honestly, I feel like I've been through every experience. There's very little that can rattle me, especially in wholesaling. And guys, I didn't start out that way. It's just like you just learn and get through it. No one's going to hurt you in this business unless you let them.
Yeah, exactly. So Outlaw says, what are your top 3 government lists? My top 3 government lists that you can pull right now. They're absolutely for free. Number 3 here, I'm going to tell you, it's probably going to be the code violation list. I'm telling you, this is a list of people that just have ugly houses, right? Either they have structural damage to the property, there's mold being done on the property, or honestly, it's just tall grass, right? That's actually my favorite part of the code violation. Number 2 here is going to most likely be the pre-foreclosure. And why I'm saying a pre-foreclosure is a great government list is, number 1, people don't know how to pull the pre-foreclosure list. And it's actually a pretty simple one to pull. And if you can effectively reverse drive $4 that list, you're going to whoop everyone's butt. It's a great list. Most people have to pay a lot of money for the pre-foreclosure, but actually it's a free list you can pull. And again, in my YouTube channel, you just go there. I'll show you how to do it for free. Usually you got to go to the public records, and it's there under the notice of default section. The number one, my favorite government list all time, is the probates, guys. When people pass away, properties just sit there ugly, abandoned, and there's a huge motivation from sellers out of state that aren't even attached to the property. Guys, this is how I'm making 40, 50, 60, 70K on a deal, because I get the best margins on the probates. You get paid in proportion to the problems you solve, and probates have the biggest problems of them all. So next question here is, Geo asks, is Zillow for sale by owners always going to be a good lead? Wait, Geo says, is Zillow for sale by owner always going to be a good lead source? Yes. The reason why Zillow for sale by owners is one of the best lead sources for beginners is it's a double whammy. First of all, you're actually getting experience cold calling. Number two, you don't have to waste your time skip tracing or pulling a list or doing any of the stuff that's going to stop you from just taking action. The action's there. The phone number's there. You start calling, right? And the scripts I have at my free course, freewholesaling.com, it's all there. And number three, most importantly, you actually get to talk to leads, right? And you talk to these leads, and every single time you're talking to a lead, you're getting a better chance of getting a deal. Lowball them, go from there. I always tell people, just offer 70% off the listing price and just see where they're at, build some rapport. And the last part here is you get better at cold calling by doing it. So number one, you actually have potential to get a really good wholesaling deal. And number two, you actually gain the knowledge and the skill set of talking to sellers. And that will go through any aspect of wholesaling, talking to cash buyers or sellers. You actually get better at wholesaling by doing this list. So it's an amazing lead source. It's free, easy, and anyone can do it. It's the fastest way to get a deal in under 2 hours.
And then the most important part is these people, they all have the will to sell. The question is, do they have the motivation? That's why you got to go through a large quantity to figure that out. And then you also said it's skip trace for you. So you get people that want to sell and you get their phone number. The downside is you got to go through a lot more quantity to find the truly motivated ones.
Yeah. So let's do some one-on-one calls today, guys. If you want to hop on and talk to us one-on-one, all y'all got to do is go to facebook.com/wholesaling houses for real. And let me share my screen so y'all can see how to do it. All you got to do is, if you're in the group right now, just go here, go to the feature tab, click here, how to get over the fear of wholesaling, right? Just click join here, and then boom, you'll be popped on the StreamYard. Talk to us absolutely for free. So let's talk. Scott, what is up? Yo, Scott. Dang. All right.
You can come back to Scott next.
Ethan. Ethan's muted too.
No. Yo, Zach, can you hear me?
Yep. How are
We
you?
hear you, man.
Good. How are you?
I'm blessed. What's up? How can I help you out?
I just want to say thank you for, all the content y'all put out. But I had a few questions about code violation. I've done everything. I'm in Atlanta right now. And
In
man, I
Atlanta
just
or
can't
like
seem to
a
get it.
suburb of Atlanta?
I'm actually in Atlanta, but I'm doing wholesaling everywhere.
Okay, cool. What are your questions? How can I help you out?
So what should I do? I've called the people for the code violation, emailed them, and they keep telling me like different people to go to. I go to those people, I email them, and they tell me, oh, we don't have to give you this information. And I've been doing this for the past 2 weeks. Fulton County, I think I've gotten South Fulton. I'm doing Marietta, Fulton, DeKalb, and Decatur as well.
Okay. We'll just go to the office in person and get the list.
We have done that as well. It hasn't.
What do they specifically tell you?
To go online, actually, or they give me a business card to someone, and
Okay.
I'll call that person and email them, and it's just not panning out. So
What do you mean
I'm
it's not?
not sure.
What do you do? So what do you mean by it's not panning out? So you call them. What do they say?
Let's see here. The people that I've called, they give me someone to email, and when I email them, they tell me that they don't have to give me the information. Now I've gotten 2 code violations. I got Gwinnett and I got south of Fulton. Now Gwinnett, you can get the code violations from the website of Gwinnett, but South Fulton, I had to email someone for that.
Okay,
But
so
those two I've done successfully.
let's focus on one. Let's do Fulton County. That's the biggest one, right? Go
Yes.
to Fulton County Code Enforcement Office. They told you that we can't help you. Go email us instead.
Yes, they actually did. I think the lady gave me a business card to hit up.
You asked to speak to a manager there.
I should ask to speak to a manager?
Did you?
No, I did not.
Okay. So let's see. Have you called all these numbers?
Yeah, if you look up Fulton, yeah, I
So
have.
you've called all these numbers?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm just looking here. I got to find the person on here because they actually have people on here you can talk to. Do you know who's in charge of the code violation department in Fulton County?
That I do not know. I'm sure I've came across it, to be honest.
Try to get a meeting with them. Ask to speak to the manager.
All right, I got you. So I'll definitely go back in person.
Yeah, they're not gonna, like, as you've already witnessed, some counties were easier than others, and others are just a pain in the butt.
I know, right?
You are gonna have to be somewhat. You're gonna have to push. You're gonna have to get names. You're gonna have to work with the managers. You still have to kill them with kindness.
I know people that have the code violation in Fulton County. That's why I'm.
But you just, they're making it more and more difficult. Don't ask me why, because it's easier to say no than to actually help you out and say yes.
Yeah.
So you're just going to have to keep progressing and pushing down, and to overcome the resistance, you just got to be persistent, because after a while they're like, crap, dude, Ethan's not going to go away, because what they're doing, they're just bouncing you department to department. And
yeah,
I can't guarantee you're still going to get the list, but you have to exhaust every resource, because the pressure's on you, not them. It's just very easy for them to say no and keep bouncing around departments. We get this stuff all the time, and we keep working through till we get to the end of the tunnel. And if it's just a hard no, then you can move on and find another county. But they're not giving you hard no's. They're giving you a rat race to go on.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. Most likely you have a brand new receptionist telling you, no, don't talk to me. I can't give you that list, right?
Yeah, I'd assume so.
So does that receptionist actually understand the laws when it comes to local government? Probably not, right? They're answering people, and they're just receptionists, right? You got to speak to the people that actually understand that it's public information, which are the managers and the people in charge of code enforcement. You have a gatekeeper. You got to get over that gatekeeper, okay? Mm-hmm. It's like talking to managers. I get this all the time at like grocery stores, right? Because I used to work at a grocery store, and there's certain things that you can actually do in a grocery store that the cashier who thinks they know everything, that you can't do that. Can I talk to the manager? Actually, you can do that. I actually have more experience, right? Worst case scenario, you file a Freedom of Information Act. And guess what happens when you file a FOIA Act? The gatekeeper, which is the code enforcement lady, I don't know what this is. Bring it to the manager, and the manager knows what to do with it, right? You have a full legal right to this information. You just got to talk to somebody that understands it, and it's usually the higher up. You have a receptionist that doesn't know the law, and they're trying to play president with you, trying to play king or queen. So ask to speak to a manager if they do it next time.
And she's been told to discourage you at all costs.
Yeah.
And
people have that list.
They just do it. Like, that's what, but once they crack the code and you know how to get it, you don't have to keep going through this dog and pony show. So just
because that lady is going to be like, okay, Ethan's back another month for the list.
Like, yeah,
Ethan's back. They know who you are, and they're just going to give it to you.
But the reality is, if it's public information, it's paid with your hard-earned tax dollars. Why would they deny you it makes no sense. So you have to you have to work your way up the food chain and keep explaining to them, like, I'm not going to go away.
I'm actually very excited for Ethan, because that means most wholesalers will quit. And if you keep going and you get the list, you're going to have a list that most wholesalers can't get.
Yeah,
so harder it is to get. So
I've been grinding this thing out. What were you saying? I'm sorry.
Go in person and just keep hammering them. You'll get very annoying where someone's going to come out and be like, I'm the manager. What's up? And explain it.
It is with your hard-earned tax dollars. It should be public information. And then what they're all trying to do is, well, we know there's privacy issues. I'm like, you guys publicly record people against their properties. It's not a privacy issue. you're not getting their phone numbers.
Well, you got to explain too that I know it might not be a privacy issue, but it's public that the owners of properties with the property appraiser. So just keep hammering it. I'm telling you, it's a good thing when they actually do that.
And don't tell them you're a wholesaler because they'll
make
it personal. So
yeah,
just say,
private
I just want to gather this information, because if they think like you're a reporter or like some other public official, they'll pay attention to you a little bit more. I find if you go into these departments and use, hey, I'm a wholesaler or even a real estate investor.
No, that's the worst thing. So Ethan, you're young enough. Hey, I'm doing a project for school.
There you go.
That's it. That's
Got you.
Because
one more thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
With water shut off, they try and tell me that they haven't shut any water off. We spent a whole day. We went to all the counties of like the outskirts of Atlanta, and they all tried to tell us that they didn't have any properties that had the water shut off within like years.
Ask them a question. I would say, Mr. So if I don't pay my water bill, you will not shut it off. I'm good. I don't have to pay my water bill anymore. You're telling me that. So if I don't pay my water bill, the water's still going to be flowing for free. If they say yes, then you get free water for life. If they say no, you get the list. It's a win-win, right?
I don't think they can afford to do that.
They can't, right? And that would be the first water company to ever say, if you don't pay, we're still going to give you water for free.
Because if that was their philosophy, they would never like. So most houses in the United States at the main, at your meter, like I know around here, they're still old fashioned. They don't even shut the water off electronically. A guy has to go around and turn a wrench and put a lock on it.
No, but Ethan, they're going to say, well, if you don't pay, we will shut the water off. Okay, can I have a list of people that you shut the water off due to non-payment? Oh, that's what you were asking? Here it is. I had to get that. They play stupid with you. So just ask them. You got to put them in their place. Hey, so if I don't pay my water bill at my house, will you not shut the water off and it's free water for life?
I got to move.
They can't say yes to that because they will lose a lot of money, right? So you will put them in their little trap of lies. I love it. I've had code enforcement agencies says we don't have code violations. I'm like, really? Here's a code violation you stuck on my property I'm flipping on 123 Main Street. They're like, well, yeah, we do have a list. I'm like, can I get that list? Like, fine. You got to catch them on lies. They will lie to you. They're going to do everything they can not to give that list. And you're fine, man. Trust. If it's a public utility department, you're going to get the list.
Got you. I'm gonna try that tomorrow. We're gonna go out and drive for dollars. What days are you guys streaming on? I want to start hopping on here more so I can tell you the process and stuff. We're also documenting this on YouTube and TikTok. I believe I actually tagged you in one of the TikToks and you checked it out. But
yeah, I think I saw it. Is your partner the guy with the beard?
Yeah, he's right here.
I've seen it. There he is. Why are you
You guys are great, helping us out a lot, man. I've been doing renovation with. By the way, I'm Will Power. I've been doing renovations here in Atlanta for about 8 years, going into my 9th years with investors. Flipped over 100 for them, and I've done the 2 myself. And I've always had issues with acquisition, so I started getting into the wholesaling. So now with Ethan, he's my mentee. I'm getting him to get into the acquisition. So
I see when people tag me. I might not be able to.
You're going to get out of. You're going to get out of contracting because it's. I think you figure the money. The money's in like getting the deals because then you can do it like whatever you want because you're not forced to fix them up. And like, let's face it, dude, fixing up some of these properties. God bless you. If you did like 100 of them, you know what you have to deal with, especially when you deal with like working for people and they're so cheap and everybody wants stuff done like overnight. They don't understand when you buy these houses and renovate them. There's a lot of work that goes on.
Posted a TikTok this conversation 3 minutes ago.
That's fine, dude. Let's go with you, man.
Well,
congrats because you're smart because it's the money's always in finding the deals, guys. It's never in renovating and flipping this stuff. Like some people are really good at it. And if your partner's a contractor and you guys want to do that, that's fine. But honestly, you two are better working together and finding deals and let go of the fix and flip. I'm telling you, like the minute I let go of fix and flip, I've never looked back. Guys, I used to fix and flip like for a couple of years because I thought that was the sexy thing to do. And boy, it's hard. Being a contractor is a lot of work. So I give you credit.
Keep it up, guys. You got this.
Thank you.
So appreciate it.
When are you guys live? Is this an everyday thing at 1?
Yeah, 1 Tuesday through Friday, and then Mondays on yours, Sundays on mine.
Yeah.
All right. Cool beans. Thank you, guys.
Okay, man. Have a good one. That's funny.
Guys, if you tag me or like, I'll look at it. Maybe I might not like or comment because I'm busy, but like, I always look at if someone like tags me, I always look at it because I found people tag me. They tag me on some funny guru stuff, and I get a kick out of it. So just tag me for anything. I'll look at it. But don't tag
when they tag you. What's it exactly mean?
They just tag like, hey, someone say their name in the
you
comment.
Put like an asterisk symbol and then your name.
No, it's the @ symbol.
You see how old I am, guys? It's bad, man.
But
I don't know. I can't survive without them.
if you give me an @ if you tag me, but you ask for something from me, then probably not. But if you mention us anywhere, I'd love to put you on. But it's always funny. Joaquin.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
I can hear you. What's
I
up?
hear you fine, man.
Okay, perfect. I just had 2 questions. The first one's pretty easy, pretty basic. The second one is a little harder. My first question is, in an attorney state, a state like that, once I get a deal under contract, is the first move going to a attorney or a title company?
Attorney.
Okay, and then how does he get paid? Does he get paid at the end of the deal, or do I have to pay him up front and stuff like that?
Every attorney is different.
Okay.
So you're gonna have to find someone in your area and basically talk to them and kind of let them know what you're doing and make sure they're okay with it.
Mhm.
And then that's the time, if they want to move forward, they'll disclose their fees and how the process works. So
Okay, perfect.
if you can do that up front, I mean, it's not a requirement, but man, it helps out a lot.
Okay, perfect. Because I was
Because
looking
that's the
into
first person that's going to stand up for you, says, oh yeah, I've done business with him, I know him, as opposed to like doing it the other way around. It's a little bit harder.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I'm looking at FISBOs on an attorney states. I just wanted to make sure I'm ready to, if I get a contract, what to do. But the second question is a little bit harder. Like I said, I've been doing FISBOs lately, like the last couple weeks, texting everyone, calling, getting responses, getting price reductions and everything. But like for example, the other day I had a house that was, I estimated the worth be 300. This estimate was 300 and everything. I got the person to think about 260. So that's a 40,000 deduction. But based on my calculation and everything, it wouldn't be a wholesale deal, but it feels like a deal. So I was seeing how would that work?
Bro, you've been doing it for 2 weeks? It was listed for 300.
It was listed for 310.
Okay.
I was talking to him and everything, and
I have a question for you, man.
Yeah.
Do you know what my rule is for Zillow for sale by owners?
I mean, I've been watching all your videos and everything.
You've been watching my videos. What about my video yesterday, for example? Do you watch that? Do you watch the full thing?
Yeah, I mean, I've watched almost everything. I know.
So what did I say? What my rule is for Zillow for sale by owners?
The 70% rule.
And you are not following that rule. You're seeing if you can get an exception for the rule, and you're not going to get an exception from me.
Okay, I was just thinking because the estimate is 300, and if I get a 40,000 deduction, so it just wouldn't make sense.
Bro, let me go.
You haven't lowballed enough.
Yeah,
you haven't lowballed enough.
No,
There's no exception.
I lowballed. I lowballed. I started.
What was your initial offer to the seller?
320. It was 320, and then
320 was your initial offer.
Yeah. I mean, that's with no repairs or anything.
But wasn't it listed for 310?
I mean, 220.
220. Okay.
Yeah.
Which was still above the 70%.
Yeah. But this is
why are you not following the rules?
Yeah.
No, this was just it was a house that didn't need any repairs and anything and stuff like that. I ended up not going along with it because his highest price was 360. So something like that, would that be like something that like a person that wants to rent it, would that make sense for them?
Some people just want the most for the house, and that's okay. What was the guy's motivation?
It was his mom's house, and she was gonna move in with him, so she was looking to sell it and everything. So I was just saying, like, so if it's low as the estimate is 300, his lowest is 260. I just stopped talking to him because it was 260.
Yeah.
But I would
Let me get you some pain, bro. Like, dude, 70% is the rule. You're trying to skirt around the rule. If he's at 260, he will keep reducing the price till he's at that 210.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
It's a rule, man.
Like so you understand who came up with the offer price for that listing on Zillow?
Asking price.
Asking price.
Asking, not offer. Asking.
Who came up with that number? You know the answer.
Yeah.
They did, correct.
Yeah.
So as soon as you validate that and then you try to discount from there, you're working from the seller's point of view, which I'm going to say most Zillow people, they're not overly rational about their price.
Yeah.
So you're assuming it's correct, which it probably isn't. It's probably nowhere near what like the real value of that house is. So never ever take the list price as your gauge. Okay. Because most likely it's wrong and it's overpriced. So we try to give you simple strategies between 50 and 70%. Why? Because you're trying to get a counter from them to see if there's any motivation and to see if they're willing to work with a wholesaler. The odds are most of them aren't. This is a numbers game. So this is perfectly normal. Number two, use the word, it feels like a deal. Nothing feels like a deal in wholesaling. Honestly, there's no feel here. They've got to be numbers that work. So using the go for no method, it's to invoke a response from the seller instead of saying, hey, what's your lowest price you take? Because they see that coming a mile away. So you got to understand there is no feel. And honestly, if they won't work with you, they're saving you the dance of putting under contract, trying to go out and pursue cash buyers and get the crap kicked out of you. I'd rather you have the hard conversation up front and find a deal, because then you can concentrate on one deal, make a ton of money with that, and move on. But when they don't want to work with you and stuff, there's really no motivation. The only motivation is price on this one. I love that, his mom's wants to sell her house and move into it, but there's no true motivation there. That's just a reason they're selling. And sometimes you guys mix up a reason and motivation. The reality is they're stuck on price. Most people on Zillow are going to be stuck on price. That's why Zach just gives you the 70% is just, I'm going to shoot it over the bow and see what happens. Okay. And if they don't respond like in a positive manner, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. And that's all we want you to do. Don't use the word feel, and never, ever use the seller's price as your anchor if you're going to get it. So if they offer it at 310 and you get it like 260, go, well, I got them to come down. No, maybe the retail price on it's 250. Okay. Because they will reverse engineer you. Like, so if the property's worth 300, they'll list it for 329.
Yeah, I mean, because like I said, I stopped talking to him and everything because his price was 260. I saw that they were selling houses like that 330, 300 and everything. But so my question to you would be like, so if you appraise it at, the ARV is 300, doesn't need any repairs, at 260, you would just let that go?
You'll never make any money. How are you going to make money on that?
Joaquin, I want you to understand, how long was this property listed on for sale for?
80 days.
80 days. He hasn't sold in 80 days because no one even offered him 260. If he's willing to take 260 now, no one is even willing to offer him 260. What you got to understand with these Zillow for sale by owners is, yes, you got a good price reduction, but that's an asking price. What they're asking, they're always going to go down from there. So if you lowball and use that rule, you're going to do fine. Don't get caught up on what the person listed it for. Get caught up on what the thing is actually worth. And what is the value of a property? What somebody else is willing to buy it for. And if somebody's not even willing to buy it for 260, which you've seen for 80 days here, it's not worth that, man. And you know that.
Okay.
The cost will add up on you on that deal when someone goes to close on it. There's closing costs, there's everything. And you got to understand, on these bigger transactions, you got to have a pretty decent spread, but you can't base your spread off what they list it for.
Zillow for sale by owners are completely different.
And the last thing I just give everybody a teachable moment watching this. You guys got to stop filtering this information to try to make it fit with your personality. There's a reason we put this stuff in place, is try to help you out, because you don't know in the beginning. So if you want to use the strategy, which I love, by the way, and it's only going to get better, is you're looking for sale by owners, is I would just start with the 70%. I don't like 70% as a blanket rule, but it's good. It's good for FSBOs, because all you got to find someone that has some pain. And when they really want to talk to you, it's because they can't get any other buyers like to come to the property. That's the purpose of it. The minute you start going, well, if I could just get them to come down 30 or 40,000, you can manipulate it however you want. And the reality is, we talk about fear and being uncomfortable. Most people make an offer to get a yes, because we are wired and programmed for yes. You have to do the opposite. So your initial offer, you want a no to see where this negotiation is going to go. Obviously, you want to try to build some rapport by doing it. But the reality is, we all have different personalities, and your personality is just nothing more than a form of your habits combined that make you who you are. And you can't take this information and then play with it to make it fit for you, because it's just going to cause you agony and pain. We're not going to change how we do it. Why? I've done this over 20 years. I'm telling you, man, there's a reason we tell you to do it this way. I don't want you to get rejected, but you are going to get rejected. And if you think you're going to filter the rules, the reason they're there is that you have to find people with motivation. Find people with motivation, guys, other than price, and you have room to get a good wholesale deal. If there's no motivation, there's nothing you can do.
Yeah, Joaquin, maybe the property is actually worth $260,000. Maybe it is. But here's the thing. If it's worth that, your cash buyer most likely is going to want to buy it for 80% of that. And what's 80% of 260? It's like 208, 210, which I was saying. So it makes the 70% rule there actually work out for you for Zillow for sale owners because people are too overpriced on it. So yeah, maybe it is worth 260, but your cash buyers might want to buy it for 210 or 220, right? So like your cash buyers want a discount on top of the discount. So maybe the guy wants to sell it for what the thing's actually worth right now. Bro, like you're buying this for cash. So just understand that there's a reason why I have that rule. Because if you lock it up for too high, you come to me complaining you didn't follow the rule. I'm not going to feel bad for you.
I remember these sellers are doing a downward spiral. You know what that means?
What?
So they are listing for yesterday's prices. So if he starts at 320 and say the house is worth 275, and then he put it on the market for 2 or 3 months, and then they come back and go, so say they had it listed traditionally with the realtor. The realtor goes, okay, the house is worth like 275. We're going to put it on the market at 329.9. After 30 days, he goes, man, we got no action. What's going on? He goes, we're going to drop it to 319. It's going to make some serious, like we're going to get some serious traction. Another month goes by, nothing's happened. And then the seller calls up. He goes, dude, what's the deal? You're not selling the house. He goes, well, the market's kind of changed. We're going to have to dip below 300 to get any action. Seller has a complete meltdown. Are you crazy? I can't take it. Well, prices are dropping, interest rates are going up. And what happens is they're constantly changing yesterday's value. And then when they call someone like you or me, or I call them and go, listen, I can only offer you 200 for you. Go, are you nuts? I started at 329. Doesn't matter where they start. It only matters where you finish. So if you try to chase them from the top down, you're never going to get a deal. You're better off chasing them from the bottom up because you can go up on your price. And the thing is, so say it's worth 270 today, 260. In a month or two, it might only be worth 250, 240. And they keep adjusting their price 10 or 15 grand. But the problem is the price keeps dropping 10 or 15 grand. And they'll never catch up until they have that moment in time where they get so frustrated. They're like, okay, I got to cut a deal. Who is honest and fair with me? Or like, who's been annoying me enough, but like, we'll get the deal done. And you're going to get a lot of this guys on Zillows. They're chasing yesterday's prices and they think someone's coming to save them. If they have a beautiful, perfect property and they get realistic, they can probably sell it. But if they got problems with the property, it's never going to sell. And that's where you guys come in making these cold calls. But please do not anchor everything on what they listed for, because to me, it's kind of irrelevant. So run a quick valuation on it, on what you have Zillow, do 70%. And then see if they'll come to you with any type of concessions or anything like that. And if they don't, just put them in your follow-up and just keep working through it.
Joaquin,
it's easier.
What market are you in right now?
I'm in Charlotte, but I've been doing FISBOs for all North Carolina and Tennessee.
Okay. Why are you doing FISBOs and not government lists?
I mean, I do my list too. Like I do my cold calling. I have me and my girlfriend calling everything.
How many code violations have you pulled this month?
We pulled this month. We didn't pull it. We didn't pull anything. We have our list that we've been running this month. It was mostly high equity and some in vacants and stuff like that.
Okay, why haven't you pulled the code violation list this month?
Oh no, I'm gonna get on that. I'm gonna get on it because I'm gonna get a deal and I'm gonna.
Okay.
I'm gonna get on
He's very serious, isn't he?
You're serious, man. But I have a lot of people. They pull the Zillow for sale buyer list because they're too scared to pull an actual government list and they don't want to. And they use that FISBO as a crutch. Like, I'm going to do all of North Carolina. I'll do all North Carolina and then I'll finally start doing it. They finally like try to get in front of something so they don't have to do it. Bro, do your local market. You'll run out of your FISBOs in a week. Okay.
Yeah, no, I know. That's why.
So now you're trying to do all of North Carolina and you're going to be like, well, let me do the whole country first. Guys, it never will stop. Okay. Do your local market. You're in a good local market. Pull the code violation list.
Okay. No, I definitely will. And I appreciate your answers and everything. Let's say, like, as an example, let's say you looking at this property and you determine it's worth 300. What is the maximum that you'll offer on it for it to make sense?
You determine if it is it listed on FSBO?
Yeah,
For
like
80
let's
days?
say no. Let's say
You just said yes.
let's say they listed it for 350 and you realize that it's worth 300 based on everything that's been sold recently. What's the highest that you're gonna go based on it being worth 300?
Is it listed for 350?
Oh no, I'm just saying as an example. Like,
these. So you just said it was a FSBO. Now it's not a FSBO. It's worth 300.
no, I'm saying what I'm asking you now is an example.
Give me an example, and we're gonna stick to that example.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Numbers. Give me it one more time.
Let's say the example is that you look at this house, you run in, you evaluate that it's 300, right?
Okay.
Okay. What I'm asking is, you personally, what would be, because 70% of that would be 210, and but what would you personally would be the maximum that you would offer for it? Like that.
You're going all over the place here. Okay. Let me ask you the questions then. What kind of lead type is this?
FSBO.
It's a Zillow FSBO. What is it listed for?
As listen, this is not a real house. I'm just saying as an example.
I'm asking the questions.
350.
It's listed for 350.
Yeah.
Okay. And how many days has it been listed for on Zillow?
100.
100. All right. So I would just doing the math. 240.
240.
Just offer that. Why? Why not?
Okay.
And I'm probably not going to get over 110,000 price reduction. Anything above that's a little too much.
Yeah. And so what I'm saying is, like, okay, so you're saying 240 would work, and you would be able
I'm
to
using my rule that I told you. If it's a Zillow FSBO, offer 70% off the listing price because it's a Zillow for sale by owner. If it was an actual off-market deal, it'd be a little different.
Okay. Yeah, I was just trying to see what would you do personally if you know it was worth.
I'm not switching my rule. So you can ask me whatever question on a FSBO. I'm just going to stick to my general rule, and I don't stray away from that.
Okay.
Remember, you're expecting to get your first offer rejected, so you don't have to worry about it. It's if they take it, great. Okay, but like the idea is you got to play the game. So if you talk to 100 people, if you sit there and do comps on 100 properties, you're gonna wind up being a realtor. And most people don't want to be a realtor that are on this channel. If you are one, I'm not dissing on you, but realtors are professionals at getting pretty accurate comps. We're not. Like, we're just trying to get meat on the bone and see if we can do it.
If it's a FSBO, just offer. Like, stop running the comps.
Yeah, just make it really simple, because unless there's motivation there, you're not going to get a very good deal and you're not going to make any money. So you got to run through. If you have 100, I expect 90% of them don't even want to play ball with you. So why spend time looking up all those comps and trying to figure it out? Just his simple rule, simple, because you can rip through it. And the people that really need to sell, which is going to be more imminent in the next 2 to 3 months than you've ever seen before. Because this perfect example, the 1 to 80 days, you think he's going to get a little more motive after 120 days and nobody wants to? Yeah. Or maybe he's just listing the property, doesn't care if he sells it or not. And there's nothing you can do about those
code violations, man. Like,
no, I will. I definitely will.
You got to do it, because the FSBO is just going to be sitting there, man. Like, they're just going to be sitting there. Most of these deals are going to be on the government list, not on FSBO. And you don't have to waste your time doing comps on a code violation list, because you're only going to do that on people that want to sell it.
No, I definitely will run code violations. It's just that with Zillow, I got addicted to the fact that I could just call them and then they answer, and I could have a conversation with them instead of like call.
That addiction is only going to be good for a week in your local market. The problem is you're wanting more of a high by doing the entire state, and that ain't going to work, dude. Local.
Yeah, it's just that. Yeah, no, I mean, I completely understand. That's why I didn't think it was at 260 it'd be a deal, but I was just getting your thoughts on it.
All right. I'm serious about you pulling the code violation list. Are you serious?
Yeah. By next week, I'm going to call you guys back and tell you what the results were on the code violation list.
Have a good one.
All right.
Bye. All right. Yo.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
Pretty good. I talked to Rick a couple of days ago. I wanted to ask you specifically, Zach. So for FSBOs, in my local markets, or the markets that I'm currently doing, there's only select few that are over 100 days and meet the criteria. So what is your favorite way to find more? I mean,
more what? FSBOs?
More FSBOs. As I was telling Rick, I mean, I
can add extra motivation.
As in,
Then don't do. Wait. So how many? What? So you're saying there's not a lot of FSBOs over 100 days?
Yeah, there's only like a very minimal amount.
All right. Well, pull the list and just let the lead simmer.
Okay, fair enough.
You can't add the FSBOs. The way the FSBOs work is, number one, they list it. They want $1 million for the house. I'm not dealing with a realtor. Blah 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 blah. Day 30, they get all these offers. I'm not dealing with a realtor. Oh, that's too low. I'm not lowballing. They're still in la la land. Day 60, ooh, I gotta start selling this house. No one's calling me anymore. Day 80. Oh no, day 100. Okay, I gotta get rid of this thing. Now I know I was in La La Land 100 days ago, but now I've figured out what the market's actually going to take for it. I gotta get rid of this thing.
Okay,
and so you can't. It's like having an aged, where they got those fine bourbons that are like 100 years old. You can't speed up the process, right? You just gotta let it age, and unfortunately, you gotta let it age, like aged cheese.
Ooh, that's good. Yeah, that's the one. All right, yeah, that's cool. That's all I wanted to ask. My focus has been on government lists anyway. I just wanted to see if there was like a way to get higher production. But yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, have a good one.
Have a good one.
You can't age cheese. You gotta let it age. Emery.
Hello.
What
a surprise! Hello. I have a couple of few questions. First of all, Google Voice is not available in Hungary, and there seems to be a whole bunch of other apps, and they all seem to have something that I don't like about them from what I looked. Do you have any recommendations?
Yeah. Number one, I'd probably use a VPN. Europe's getting really weird with privacy laws, and they're not liking Google and Apple and all these companies. They don't like Facebook. They're getting really rough. So they're actually getting blocked all over Europe. So what I could tell you is use a VPN.
They're dirt cheap.
So they're free, actually. If you look up what we call WindScribe, you can get an internet server in the United States for free.
Scribe, kind of like the Wind Cries Mary, Jimi Hendrix song.
Kind of.
Never mind.
I love Jimi Hendrix. But yeah, just use WindScribe and you could probably work.
Oh, cool.
Greg's not going to use a Skype phone number. I don't know if Skype's working there, but yeah, try that out.
Oh, okay. Another question. So 30-day inspection, but how many days can I stretch the EMD, you think?
You can technically do it until the inspection period's over. I would probably do 2 weeks. I mean,
you gotta write it in your contract.
Why don't you just do $100 EMD?
Okay.
That's cheap, and you can probably do it pretty fast. I'd probably do that instead.
Yeah, that is true. Although if I'm a seller and I see $100, I don't exactly wet my pants with excitement.
No, but it's the price. I'm buying it in 30 days for cash.
Okay.
That's just the way we do it.
So you teach them the focus. Listen, I'm going to buy it.
And Emery, you got to know, if this is an on-market deal, then sure, I'll put up more EMD, but I'm paying for closing costs. Right? So I tell the seller, hey, I'm paying for closing costs. So I can put $1,000 down, but you can pay for closing costs. It'll save me a couple grand. And they usually shut up. Right?
Yeah. So, I mean, you got to find the number that makes the contract legitimate in the seller's eyes and doesn't drive you nuts. And unfortunately, there's always a balancing issue. When you get a really good deal and they're demanding a higher deposit, remember, it's just a deposit. And if it's going to EMD, which is an escrow account, you're really not at risk for much. So just keep it in mind when you do it. Every now and then you got to pull out a little bit more money, but like sometimes that's a good thing because you don't want them backing out of the deal either. So guys, you got to do the first 2 years. I didn't even leave a deposit, not one. I think I did over 60 deals, 65 deals. I didn't leave one deposit because I didn't know what I was doing. So then we went to $10. Ooh. So, and then I thought it was mind blowing when we switched to 100. So remember, it's all negotiable. You technically don't even need a deposit, but the deposit is a psychological issue with sellers because every realtor and every neighbor tells them if they don't leave a deposit, they're not serious. And then you got to chase them to get back in your contract. So that's the main reason we tell you just leave something to put them at ease.
How much of a problem do you think it is if you go past the date you're supposed to put in the deposit, but you don't?
It's usually 24 hours for standard contracts, but you can write in after the inspection period if you write in an extra note on there.
Yeah, just put, so like on a standard realtor's contract, the norm for them within 3 business days, there's actually a box for it. But remember, everything's negotiable. So if you write it in there and just say, listen, if you're doing a 30-day inspections, and sometimes you can have your deposit due 30 days later. But remember, you do run the risk if someone's like doesn't think it's legitimate that they could want to back out on it.
Yeah.
So the deposit's more for the seller than us.
That's why I say just do $100.
Okay. All right. And the earlier discussion about the 70% rule. So 300,000 Zillow, you offer 2, and then they counter with 260. So do you go up from the 210?
I usually stick around that. For a FSBO, for a Zillow for sale by owner, yes. Anything else,
Yes.
no.
Okay. And how do you soften the blow? You know, some people get angry if you offer what they consider an unfair price.
So you have to use an excuse for it.
That
So
you're
I use what we call the good cop, bad cop. So if you're a Zillow for sale by owner, I'm going to offer really low to you. I'm going to say, hey, Emery, I was talking to my partner, Rick, and he looked at the property and he was looking to buy to around 210,000. You might scream it and be like, all right, hey, that's Rick. Hey, Rick's crazy.
I am.
He's crazy. I'm the middleman. This is why I'm talking to you, because I'm reasonable. And then you go from there, meet a middle ground. You blame everything on the partner, not you.
Rick, that's a good name too, because it's a common name. And
don't go around blaming me for everything. Please.
You gotta do like a politician. You know, what's wrong with America? The other political party, right? Like you just got to deflect the blame and you're good. And then you can't be upset at me. So yeah, that's how you do it.
Okay. Oh, all right. Well, that was the question of the day.
All right. Well, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good one. All right, guys. So that is how you get over your fear of wholesaling real estate. Do not be fearful. This is the best time to get in wholesaling and change your life. Guys, you got any value from this video, do me a big favor. Make sure you go to freewholesaling.com or free real estate wholesaling course. Check us out. Hit that like button, subscribe, and you'll be on tomorrow live.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
See you guys. If we didn't talk to you one-on-one, talk to Rick tomorrow. Link will be in this on StreamYard on the group. Appreciate it, guys.